Okay, I forgot to start recording, and at the end, I'll go over the basal ceiling thing again because I have some people not able to attend today. So I'm sorry. Go ahead. You're
Now, on our syllables in the assignment says not to worry about page 28.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the second page? Like this is page, but it's not 27. So
right.
this is the first one, and the other one is the second. Is that the
Right.
one you're talking about?
Right. They changed the manual, the scoring pages.
Okay.
That was, I think that was, don't worry about,
The second one.
yeah, the second one, page 22. And if you think of it, it would be
Got it. Okay.
back side of this. Don't worry about the back side of this.
Okay, because that was my question. My question is on the second page, but if we don't have to worry about that, then
Don't worry about that. That's more, you know, that gives you some interesting things if you're wanting to more know. Let's see if we have a domain comparison or daily living skills and socialization. I want to compare those. That's when you can start looking at those, and it's like extending the testing to find more information. But for our job, all I'm wanting you to do is this front page. And I'm sorry that was a confusion. They changed the booklet and reduced some pages. So that's why I'll have to fix that. Thank you for reminding me.
No, it's just I was confused with the strengths and weaknesses, but if we don't have to do that, I'm fine.
Yeah, so that's
Now on this graph,
yeah.
do you want us to color, like kind of to see what it is?
Here's my philosophy about graphs.
I love them. I love graphs. It gives me a super good visual. I'm a visual person.
Exactly.
So I really love that this shows me exactly what this kid is. And this is just a different way to show this same information, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's up to you if you want to do it or not, because you're not going to turn this into me. That's more for you. And because I want you to put information into a report,
yes.
It would be the adaptive behavior section of a report.
That's where my questions are in interpreting these results. I looked on that Q Global, and it says that there should be some reports that we can get, but I don't have that.
Q Global. Yeah. Okay, here's the thing about I purchased it just so you have access to the manual.
Okay.
What we've done in the past is, here it is. Every year I would mail this out with a scoring profile, and then you'd have to mail it back to me. Each time that costs about $5 to do.
Okay.
By buying the Q Global, you guys all have access to this manual electronically.
Okay.
And, unfortunately, it's a comprehensive system. We did not buy the scoring profile. However, I'm from the old school. I'm an old guy, so I'm from the old school. What happens if you do only depend on technology to score things? And say like,
I hope your internet doesn't go out.
Yeah, you have EMP and it destroys everything, and you have to do it by hand. And you don't know how to do it. That's what this is for. The manual has, what does interpersonal relationship skills mean? What does play and leisure skills mean? Those are the important things. And you look it up in the manual and you say they got a score of 80 on play and leisure. And they're of average IQ. You could tell just because they interact okay and they're pretty age appropriate, etc. Would that be a weakness for you guys to think about? It'd be relative weakness, would it not? Okay, so that relative weakness, you would say, according to the Vineland Adaptive Behavior Scales, Billy Bob had a score of 80 on play and leisure, which was a relative weakness. And play and leisure means blah, blah, blah. So therefore you would need to identify some goals for play and leisure, correct?
Mhm.
So that's some things. Now, let me share with you guys a little bit, just talk about statistics for a minute. This is when you finally get your standard score on this, on the Vineland. The mean is 100, the standard deviation is 15. So it is just like almost all the IQ tests and all the other tests out there that we use, that we do that with. So with a mean of 100, you know, 100 is the average, and the range for average is between 85 and 115, correct?
Right?
So, so let's think about this for a second. When we start talking about students with intellectual disability, what is the identifying elements of a student with an intellectual disability? They have a significant sub-average IQ, correct? And what does that mean? You guys
Is it an
know?
IQ under 70?
Below 70.
Okay,
Two standard deviation.
2 standard deviations below the mean is considered significantly sub-average. Now, in Texas, the Texas Commissioner's rules on special education, they have added a little element that says significant sub-average IQ, taking into consideration the standard error of the measurement. Okay, what is the SEM, the standard error of the measurement? What does that mean?
Does that have to do with the confidence interval?
Basically, it does.
Okay.
But a standard error of the measurement, all tests have it. When you look at the manual for the Wechsler or the Woodcock-Johnson or any of those, it'll say the standard error of the measurement. You'll look into the manual and it'll tell you. It's usually between 1 and 2 points. And so let's just say it's 2 points. So here's how I, as a school psychologist, write a report. Say I gave a Wechsler 5 to a student and they scored a 71. Just by that 71 being the obtained score, see, that's the obtained score. That means that's what they got on that day, at that time, and that situation, 71. Now with a Wechsler, there's two standard, 2 point standard error of the measurement. So if you subtract 2 from 71, that means 69 and then you add 2 to 73. In that range, the true score of the child will lie somewhere within that range between 69 and 73. Because we in Texas take into consideration the standard error of the measurement, we can then say that student may be intellectually disabled based on that 69 score. But what else do we have to make sure that person meets the criteria of intellectual disability?
Adaptive.
Right. Which
2
is,
weaknesses on the adaptive behavior.
right. So you have to have at least 2 areas of that are low in adaptive behavior, correct? I'm going to give you guys an excellent website. If you've taken my exceptional individuals class, then you know you've had access to this before. So I'm going to share my screen. This is the legal framework from Region 18. And you just do a search for legal framework Region 18, and it'll bring you to this page. Do you guys see it? It should-
No.
Okay. Let's click on frameworks. Then we'll scroll down to intellectual disability. Here's all the information about it. And here's the eligibility criteria. It says,
Dr. Kathy, you're not sharing your screen.
pardon me? Oh,
You're
I'm
not
sorry.
sharing your screen.
There it is. Now do you see it?
Yes.
Okay, I'll go back a page so you can see what the home page looks like. This is what the home page looks like. Here's the new procedural safeguard. You can download them. There's the ARD guide, and there's the side-by-side of the rules and regulations. So we're going to go to frameworks, click on frameworks, and then we're going to go down to intellectual disability. Sorry about not clicking that. It's like not clicking unmute. So a child with an intellectual disability is one who has been determined to meet the criteria for intellectual disability. I love how they give that definition.
Yeah.
Right here is the commissioner's rule on that. So let's look at that. And then it says, intellectual disability, a student with an intellectual disability is one who's determined to meet the criteria under the IDEA, has been determined to have significantly sub-average intellectual functioning as measured by a standardized individual administered test of cognitive ability, in which the overall test is at least 2 standard deviations below the mean when taking into consideration the standard error of the measurement of the test, and concurrently exhibits deficits in at least 2 of the following areas of adaptive behavior. And there we see those things, right?
And what is considered a deficit there? 1 standard deviation low, or?
Well, you need to,
For adaptive?
here's my rule of thumb. I think it needs to be, if you do 1 standard deviation, below 1 standard deviation, you're getting close. I would go with that. And if you can give some examples of what they're doing that is maladaptive, not maladaptive in the negative sense, but not meeting the criteria of age appropriateness for most people. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It has to be low. It's not saying significantly, but concomitant is an interesting term. And when you look up concomitant in the dictionary, I can't spell with a hoot. Naturally accompanying or associated with. So it has to be, you have to show that it's relatively low. And it's, and here's some other terms that I use a lot in my write-ups for students. Relative strength and relative weakness. Relative to whom? The student, correct? So if you can get kids that got lower IQ but have great street skills, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they might be in the average range, and that wouldn't be a concomitant issue. So yes, I would go with below 1 standard deviation, where it's kind of
But there's not like a hard, fast rule. It's
not a
you
hard and fast
judgment.
rule. It has to go with, you compare it to the student.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So basically 85 or below.
Yeah, I would go with 85 or below. I mean, that's kind of a rule of thumb.
Okay.
Because that's looking at that, that's a problem area for them, because they're not going to be able to engage age appropriately with students, right?
Right.
So if you have two areas that are down lower, then you can say, yeah, I'm good with saying the student has a intellectual disability. We do this for kids with the autism spectrum, kids with other things they're having trouble with coping with their environment. Okay, so those are those two things. What else? Let me go to the course page. And some of you guys were having difficulty finding the patent and here's the on the content page on 4. There's I put the patent and formal inventory, and the informal checklist of adaptive behavior is there. I believe it's also in 3, but I'm not for sure. I'll look at module 3. That's where you'll find the report writing guidelines that and there's a report format for activities for adaptive behavior. I'll go ahead and then put that over into module 4 also.
We complete the Vineland 3 for a student. Do you want the entire protocol scanned in, or do you just want the score report?
I just want your score report. If you're going to email it back or upload it into the thing, just the score report. So, and you could just take a picture of it. And
So you just want this front page and then the report that we write.
yes, that's it.
Okay.
And upload that because you can upload multiple files into D2L. So upload that to D2L form.
Okay.
I already scanned everything together. So can I submit it that way?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
It says July 5th. Is that correct?
July 1st. That was last year's. I'll fix it.
Okay. Okay. So
Well, I
it's
have to
July
get
1st. Okay.
I've got
I thought it was the 1st. I just saw that. I thought, wait.
July 5th is there's the behavior assessment right up there, July 1st.
Yeah.
Last year it was July 5th, so that might be an error there.
Okay.
Because I have to have grades in by the 5th.
Okay.
Dr. Cabot, now that we're talking about dates, I'm leaving vacation. So this is personal. I was waiting to the end, but it might benefit somebody else. Would it be possible for you to post the final at least Saturday?
I'll open
Because
it.
we're leaving to the mountains and
Yeah.
I'm really scared I won't have enough
Internet.
internet. I don't know. We're going to a hotel. It might work, but I don't know. Because
I'm
it's in the
going to
mountains.
open it right now. I'll open it today, right now.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate
Available
it.
to you, from today. Today's 25th. It is now available to you.
Perfect. Really appreciate it.
Oh,
I was
good.
super scared that I will have,
Yeah.
I don't know.
No worries.
Everything else is ready. I just need to work on my final. I mean, I'm not ready. The
I get
report has to be written first, but hopefully I'll be ready.
You know, I am so, hopefully you guys see me as a little bit more critical than what you think. I'm not a hard-nosed kind of guy. I'm pretty easygoing. July 1st is a drop dead day.
Perfect.
Does that make sense?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Of course. And so the final exam is open for you guys. And on that, I'm open book, open notes kind of guy. So you guys can do whatever you need to on that. Because it's
Is it gonna be multiple choice?
pretty much. That's
Okay.
And it includes the rest of the chapters through
Yeah.
24 in the, okay.
there's a. There's some written, there's true, false, multiple choice, and true, false, and short answer, written responses. So it's kind of a mixture of stuff. Most of multiple choice. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right.
And for that score report on the second page,
Oh,
as
yeah.
an educational diagnostician, working in the field, will we have to complete that if we're doing the written?
When you're out in the field, you guys will have access to an online scoring program. Most
Okay.
likely. And so it'll spit stuff out for you. Again, it's more busy, but it's more about identifying, it helps you identify strengths and weaknesses. And if you look at the second page, that first column is probably the most important of everything in there, identifying strengths and weaknesses.
Okay.
And that's it. Everything else is kind of work. And boy, when we get in the field, we're just trying to get it done. And that's why, but you need to know how to do this hand scoring before you move to computer scoring.
Okay, so for the internship, will we have to do hand scoring or would we be doing computer scoring?
You're going to be doing that at your intern site, correct?
Yes.
So you'll be using the tools that your district has for you. So
Okay.
whatever those tools are, use them.
Okay.
And that's even IEP development and the whole 9 yards, because most of you guys, your districts use something like eSped or what do you guys use for special
Success Ed, I think.
We use eSped.
eSped or
You said,
new ones out there too. So I've been away from being, I was a director and so we used eSped. Okay. Anything else? All right, this is your time with me. I wish I would have done more of this over the 5 weeks, but it's been a crazy semester, has it not?
And very fast.
Very fast. Lots of work, very fast. So,
Well, thank you for doing this today. That clears up a lot.
good. I'm glad it does.
I have a question, Dr. Kevin. In my district, when we do this test, this Finland, we include the questions asked, all the questions that the teacher asked. Do you want me to do that or we don't have to?
You don't have to for me.
Perfect. Yeah, because it's
That's
a long page. I mean, almost 2 pages of the questions that we ask the student.
You know, let me share my whole philosophy about reports and everything. My whole philosophy is this. Are you going to read a 25, 30-page report? Do you have time to as a teacher? Say you do a functional behavior assessment, and I create this beautiful document but it's 25 pages. And interspersed throughout there are the behavioral strategies that I want you to use in the classroom. What's going to happen? You're going to set it aside and
You just go straight to that.
right. So I always come up with a one-page intervention process. That's why you kind of have your overview and what those results mean. That's the important meat. You want to know, you want to have the meat, not all the fluff.
Got it.
So I don't need all those questions.
Perfect.
It's like a protocol, you know, I don't put the protocol in the report. That's kind of the same thing.
You're right.
Now, if there's something interesting that came out about a question, I would highlight that one question or two questions and say,
Yeah.
this information about this particular question was very interesting, and this is the reason why. I would explain that. But you want the meat.
Perfect.
It's like looking at the back of the book whenever you start reading a Michael Crichton novel or something. So, okay.
That's cheating.
It is. Yeah. Okay. Anything else, my friends?
I found a template on the Vineland 3 to write the score, the scoring, like doing the report and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering, was that okay to use?
It's perfectly fine. Here's what I say about that too, is that create your format that fits you the best. Now, I gave you the writing, how to write a report information, kind of follow that as best you can, but make it your report. And if you have all the elements, you don't, how you put it together is up to you. What makes sense to you as the professional. Does that make sense?
Okay. And then at the end, I'm writing recommendations as well for the adaptive.
Correct. And when you think about this, this is under the PLAFs, these are the functional performance strengths and weaknesses, correct? Present levels of academic and functional performance. Adaptive behavior is the functional performance pieces. So that's good.
Yeah, like if I'm writing recommendations, but my student is in the last grade, he's about to leave. So basically this will be his
Transition goal.
transition recommendations, right?
Correct. Exactly. You look at the age of this child and you say, okay, where do I do this? And where do I place this? So that's perfect. Good. Anything else?
Just
All
to
right,
say
guys.
thank you.
You're so very welcome. You guys have a great rest of your summer. Take some time off if you can. Craziness is happening, right?
Yeah,
It's hot out
Thank
there.
you.
Hey, cool.
thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. Go ahead. I'm going to stay on so I can record what I gave at the beginning. So I'm gonna, if you want to stay listen to that again, that's good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye, Heather. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, so I'm started the recording, boy, that was silly of me. I had it in my head to start recording right away and I forgot, but now I'm going to record what I talked about at the beginning, which is about basal and ceiling. The whole purpose of basal and ceiling is it shortens the amount of time it takes for the test. And so your basal, so for example, if you're giving a section, say it's on communication, whatever, and you started around 10 and you got 2s on 10 and up to 20 from 10 to 20 would be, and then 21 was a 1, 22 was a 1, and 23 was a 1. And then 20, and then, so, and then you had ones until you got to 29. And then at 30, you got your zeros and that became your ceiling, let's say. From from then on, they were zeros. So when you add up your basal, so 10 was your basal. So all the scores below counted as twos because you were all correct. So you got between 1 and 10, you had 10 times 2. So you had 20 points. And then from to 20, that would be 40 points. Sorry. Then you had a ones all the way to 29, that would be 9 more points. And then 30 up were 0, so those don't count. So your raw score then would be 49 because it would be all the scores from 0 to 20 that were twos, and then the ones, and that's your raw score. That's the score that you use to identify the scaled scores and the V-scores in the test. And remember, relative weakness is based on what's the student's relative weakness. So if we think about that, the standard scores are in this test and like IQ tests are 100 is the mean and 15 is the standard deviation. One standard deviation below the mean is 85. Kind of use a rule of thumb, that's a relative weakness. That would be below 85. You could say that they're having some relative weakness and concomitant areas of your adaptive behavior for the student. So that was what I talked about at the beginning of the session and didn't record. So now it is recorded. And I hope it makes sense. If it doesn't, email me and we'll do it again. All right. Is there anything else you need from me? You contact me by email and I will get back to you right away. All right. You have a great summer and I will talk to you soon. Bye.